Okay. So welcome everybody. Get out your notebooks, please. And let's go ahead and do this. So yesterday we talked about factoring and factoring when A is not 1. Today we are factoring by grouping. So this is the main thing that we are doing. Tomorrow we're going to start by going over some of your homework. I promised you guys I'm going to give you at least 15 to 20 minutes to start your homework, and I'll talk more about that once we actually get to your homework. But please do it while we're on here. So I know that you're going to have questions, and I know that I gave you a lot of homework tonight. I'm not trying to drown you with homework. I'm trying to give you a chance to do it while I'm on here. So making sure that you understand this is most important. So we're going to wrap this all kind of up today, but factoring by grouping. If we ever have 4 terms, look to factor by grouping. Always, anytime that we are looking to factor, you always look to pull out the greatest common factor first. When I say factor by grouping, you are literally just grouping 2 terms together. You're pulling out the greatest common factor. Now, I'm going to explain this all through here. These notes are not comprehensive. This is kind of what we're doing. So make sure that you guys are following along and you ask questions. When you write your final answer, make sure to include the sign that you factored out. Now, none of this makes sense as of right now. And for the most part, I don't think you've ever really done this. You might have hit on this last year in Algebra 2. But this is actually one of the kinds of factoring that once you get this, this is one of the easy ones. You guys will end up kind of liking this. Now I am recording this and your notes are already up on Canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go, and I might go a little bit quicker today just for the fact that you guys have this and you can go back and watch this. But I want to make sure that we get to your homework and you have plenty of time to at least do most of your homework together. Okay. So let's see if I can move this at all. Yeah, there we go. All right. So I like a lot of interaction here. I'm going to pull up your screen here in just a second, but I'm going to walk you through number 1. I'm going to walk you through number 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to kind of open up and start to ask questions. So what you're trying to do is group these together to get a common expression in the parentheses. And I'll show you what I mean. By grouping these together, I'm literally grouping these first 2 and these second 2. Now, by grouping them, I didn't do anything else here. I'm not multiplying. I'm just looking at these 2 terms, and I'm looking at these 2 terms. So once I show you once or twice how to do this, it starts to make sense. So the first question is, and I am going to open this up for, I would like somebody to answer the question, what is the greatest common factor that I can pull out of these 2 terms?
2x.
2x, is that it? Any exponent?
2x squared.
Perfect. And I know you guys don't mean to talk over each other, so yeah, that's fine. So 2x squared is what I'm pulling out of both of these. So I'm left with x minus 4. Now this part is very important, and I know I didn't write this down because it's difficult to explain. In order to factor this, I need the quantity of x minus 4s. I need that in both groups. So in other words, what can I factor out of 3x minus 12 that gives me x minus 4?
3.
a positive 3. Now, this is really important. The sign has to go with it. So if I factor out a positive 3, I have x minus 4. I'm going to slow down. Does everybody see how those quantities are exactly the same? So all it takes to factor this, I'm going to switch colors here, switch to black. All it takes to factor this is I take those two greatest common factors, and that's one quantity. That's why you put the sign with it. And then those two that are the same, I only write it once, and that's it. We are finished with this problem. So how do I factor it with 4 terms? You factor by grouping. By the way, if you want to check your answer, all you'd have to do is FOIL it back out. So let's go ahead and check it. You don't have to do this every time, but let's go ahead and check it. 2x squared times x is 2x cubed minus 8x squared plus 3x minus 12. Does that match our original problem? Yes, it does. So I'm finished. Any questions? Quick show of hands, because I know I did this in Algebra 2, but how many people did this in Algebra 2? Or at least remember doing it. So I see a couple there. Good. Okay. Okay. So it looks like most of you guys have seen this before, which is kind of what I thought. So I know not every teacher did this in Algebra 2, but almost all of us did. So let's look at something a little bit more difficult, like number 2. Again, I'm going to group these two terms together, and I'm going to group these two terms together. What is my greatest common factor with x cubed and x squared?
X squared.
Good. It's just x squared. So I have to pull that out, and I'm left with x minus 1. Now, again, this is something I need to make sure that everybody sees this. And by the way, I'm going to start doing some cold calling. What I've noticed is it's real easy for us to kind of zone out and just go through the motions and only kind of pay attention while I'm just running through problems. So I will do some cold calling here. So remember, I need my parentheses to match. Well, right now I have a minus x plus 1. So what could I factor out of this expression to get an x minus 1?
Would it be -1?
That's exactly right. Well done. So I factored out a -1, and when I divide both of these by -1, now they match. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, this one is doing a little bit extra. So how do I write this all together? Take your two common factors that you put out, put those together that you pulled out. And then you just write this once. Now, I'm going to ask a question here, and I want you guys to see this. Normally, I would be done. But why am I not done here? Does anybody know why I'm not finished? Because I would be. I've done everything I did in the last one. Why am I not done? What do I have to check for?
Is it a difference of squares?
That's exactly right. Always, always, always check for difference of squares, especially in the quadratic quantity. So if this is x squared minus 1, this is just a perfect square minus a perfect square. So I have to break this down even further. And your final answer looks like this. And then this one, that's the final answer. So I'm going to type this up real quick just so you guys can see this, but always check for difference of squares. I'm going to erase that in just a minute. But always, always, always check for difference of squares. Now, like I said, so I did number one almost completely for you. Number two, I did most of that for you. Now I'm going to take a time, not too much time, but I'm going to give you guys a minute to try number three. So try number three completely on your own. Let's do that. Take about another 20 seconds. All right. I'm just going to give you your answer and then let's check it. On the next one, I'll make it more interactive here, but my greatest common factor in those first two is 2x squared. So I'm left with x plus 2. So if I want an x plus 2 from these, I have to factor out a negative 3. Once those quantities are the same, I'm good. So my entire answer is 2x squared minus 3 times the quantity of x plus 2. I'm checking for difference of squares. That is not a perfect square minus a perfect square, so I am good. Questions at all on number 3? I am saying this, once you get a hang of this, this isn't so bad.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if it was like 2x squared minus 3 and then times like 2x plus 2, like would you do the difference of squares or no?
So good question. So if, and here's what he's saying, if I had something like this, if I had 2x squared minus 3, and you said something like 2x plus 2, right? So if you ever have a common factor in this, then you really miss the first step, which should be look to pull out a common factor first. So if that were the case, your entire answer would be this. I factored out a 2 here, x plus 1. So it's funny that you said that because we addressed that actually in number 5. So let's go back and let's do this in, let's get back to basics here real quick. So number 4 and 5, I put up here on purpose, obviously. So number 4, the first question we should always, always, always ask is, can I pull out a common factor first? And the answer is, on this one, no. So some people say, couldn't I pull out an 8? No, because the R doesn't have an 8. So let's do the same thing on this one. So if I pull out an 8R squared, I'm left with R minus 8. Ooh, but what can I factor out to get an R minus 8? This is the type that throws almost everybody off.
1.
That's exactly right. A positive 1, I have to have the quantity be the same. So I am still factoring this out, and it stays the same. So that is just 8r squared plus 1. You always have to pull out the common factor. This is the number one problem that trips people up. So anytime you get a little bit easier, we tend to get confused or forget about the simple step. So I have to have a greatest common factor for this to work. So my entire answer is this. And then I check for difference of squares. Not a perfect square minus a perfect square, so I am done.
Oh, do the signs still apply on this?
Say that again, the signs? No,
Yeah.
the signs don't apply on this. So the signs only work if you're doing a trinomial,
Oh, okay.
okay? Now we're gonna wrap this up after this screen. We've learned everything there is to know about factoring. Now it's ironing it out and practicing, right? So how this is gonna work is I'm gonna give you plenty of time to do your homework here in just a few minutes while I'm on here to practice it. Tomorrow you can ask more questions about it, and then we're gonna move on. So last one, number 5, what's the first rule of factoring again?
GCF pulled out.
GCF. So what's the greatest common factor that I have in all 4 terms?
3.
It is a 3. Now some people would say 9, but 9 doesn't go in here. 3 goes into all of these. So you always have to account for the greatest common factor. So
So do you, I'm
yeah,
sorry. So do you take 3 divided by all of them? So you wouldn't split it just yet? You would just.
that's right.
You wouldn't split it just yet? Okay.
So I'm going to factor that out first. And now I'm left with 21 n cubed plus 18 n squared minus, I believe that's 35 n minus 30. Check my work. That's right. Okay. So this is about as complex as it gets, and I understand that. So if it were all just easy and yeah, we wouldn't even need to do it. But this one's a little more complex. So let's go ahead again and let's group these together. So I'm going to group these 2 and these 2. What's the greatest common factor in those first 2? So the greatest common factor here, it's 3n squared. So I'm left with 7n plus 6. Is there anything I could pull out of negative 35n and negative 30 to give me 7n plus 6?
5.
Close.
-5.
There you go. -5. So -5, if those are both negative and I need it to be positive, factor out the negative. So I'm left with 7n plus 6. Now we're ready to put it all together, and notice I circled the GCF. That's a reminder to myself that that's still part of the answer. So my entire answer, that 3, I'm going to drop right here. Let's group the GCFs together. And check for difference of squares. There is none. So this is my final answer. And I know that's complex. We went easy, 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 little thing, and then we went boom, big. I get that. So if you are able to do 4 and 5, you can do all of this. Any questions? All right, so I was trying to give you guys 20 minutes or so on here with me to do your homework, but I want to make sure that we run through all of this. So we've got 5 questions. I'm not necessarily going to give you guys time to do these on your own. I want to make sure that you're following, that you understand every single step that I'm doing. And then I'll let you guys start your homework. The first rule to factoring is GCF first. So on number 1, my first step is to pull out my greatest common factor. I'll change colors here in just a minute. So I pulled out the GCF. Now I look to factor completely. So again, you guys wouldn't be in here if you weren't at some point very good at this. So I see my second sign's a minus, which means my signs are opposites. Factors of x squared. Factors of 3, remember, if my signs are opposites, they subtract to equal -2. My only factors for 3 are 3 and 1. So is 3 minus 1 -2 or 1 minus 3? It is 1 minus 3, and that's your final answer. Again, I understand I'm going a little bit fast.
Okay, I have a question with the first one.
Yeah.
So is this what we did yesterday where you're finding the like you're doing -3 and finding what makes it equal to the -2x? Or like
Yeah, okay. So basically, yes. Okay. Now, one thing I want to be careful about, and just I know what you're asking, but when I say factoring, what I'm trying to show you, especially now that we're in pre-cal, is you'll have all different types of factoring in one problem. It could be, it's going to be all over the place. So that's why I'm really trying to teach you guys holistically of what to look for. So always GCF. And then if A is 1, this is the same thing you guys have been doing since like 7th or 8th grade.
mhm.
Okay. So, and I know it's been a while since you've done it, but that's why I'm going a little bit quicker. So if this is just 1, it's basically what are my factors that add or subtract to equal the middle term? Factors of 3 that subtract and equal -2 are 1 minus 3. Now, what we did exactly yesterday was like number 2. I cannot pull out a GCF. So I'm going to start one step at a time, fill in your signs. If the second sign's a minus, my signs are opposites every single time. My only factors for 2x squared are 2x and 1x. Again, you do not have to write the 1. I just do. My factors for 18 are 18 and 1, 9 and 2, 6 and 3. Now, this is somewhat of a guess and check, but the reason I like my way, the way that I teach it best, is it teaches you guys a number sense, which means because my signs are opposite, I know they have to subtract and equal +9, but I have to multiply the outers and the inners. Now, here's the thing. Always start with the ones closest together, but you guys don't even necessarily have to write this out, and here's why. Can the 6 even go here?
No,
Why not?
because they can I forgot what it's called.
Pull out a
But they're
common.
both even.
Yep. So
Yeah.
the 6 can't go there because I could pull out a common factor. So the 6 could go here. So that works as long as I don't have any common factors. Now check your answers. That's -12x plus 3x, which gives us -9x. Am I looking for -9x in the middle? No, I'm looking for positive. So what's the only thing I have to change about this?
Change your signs.
You just switch your signs. So remember, they have to be opposites. So this one really should be negative, and this one really should be positive. Now it works. Now I've got +12x minus 3x. Now it works. Okay, so your entire answer is 2x minus 3. There you go. Okay. Number 3. And we're not going to have as much time as I thought. I really wanted to give you guys 20 minutes. So number 3, can I pull out a common factor first? The answer is yes. So my greatest common factor that I can pull out is a 2. So same thing, let's go ahead and redo this. And whenever you get to something like this, you're going to think, oh God, I don't know where to start. Start with your signs. Because this is a plus, they have to be the same. They will both be minus signs. So let's go ahead and put in the minus signs. My factors for 6x squared, I've got options. It could either be 6x and 1x or 3x and 2x. How do I know where to start? Always start with the 2 closest together. Factors for 20. 20 and 1, 10 and 2, 5 and 4. Guessing and checking, start with the 2 closest together. By the way, can 10 and 2, is that even a viable option? Can I even check 10 and 2? I shouldn't, because that has a 2 and I could pull out a common factor. So that's not even a viable solution for right now. So let's try 5 and 4. The 4 can't go here because I would have a common factor. And the 5 and 4. Let's check. Does that match the middle term? It does. So that's my final answer. Questions? Okay. Number 4, just a reminder, we just did something like number 4. So number 4, if I can factor this out, there's 4 terms, so look for grouping. So I've got x squared, x plus 3. Ooh, what can I pull out of here? Anything?
Would it be -1?
-1.
So if I pull out a -1, you're right, and that would give me 2x plus 3. That was the only thing I could pull out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are my quantities the same?
No.
They're not the same. So this is, be very careful. This is not factorable. What do we call something that's not factorable again?
Prime.
Prime.
Right. So just in case, if those ever don't match up, we call it prime. Okay? So that's going to throw you guys off just a little bit. Number 5, I put up here on purpose. So number 5 is a deeper way of factoring. So number 5, there's only 2 terms. So if there's only 2 terms, we don't know sum and difference of cubes yet. We'll learn that here soon. This is still a perfect square minus a perfect square. It is a difference of squares. So if I do number 5, difference of squares, 1's a plus, 1's a minus, square root minus a square root, so perfect square minus a perfect square. But I'm not finished. Somebody tell me, why am I not finished yet?
Isn't it still, it's now a difference of, like,
You still have a difference of squares. So be careful anytime that this is something like to the 4th power, because you have to look to finish this completely. Again, I'm kind of giving you guys a crash course in factoring. But anytime you have a binomial, anytime you have 2 terms, always look for difference of squares. That's your final answer, okay? Now, I meant to give you guys a lot more time here. So this is literally, it's only 24 questions, and I say only. So you have a worksheet 1 through 55, just the odds. Omit, that means don't do number 7, number 9, number 35, and number 7. Where can you find the worksheet? The same place you find all of your worksheets or all of your stuff.
What are the numbers we're supposed to omit again?
It's up here, so I'll show
Okay.
you again. So class resources. So it says 1 through 55, odds only. So that's 28 questions minus these 4, it's 24 questions. Download the PDF. Now I want to talk about this real quick, and I'm not getting off here anytime soon. And I say anytime soon, until the bell rings. So we've got about 12 minutes left. So make sure when you do this, I want you to keep this nice and neat and organized. So on a scrap piece of paper. So on Friday, I'm going to give you guys about 10 to 15 minutes to do the homework check, and I'm going to pick a couple problems from this worksheet. So where you're going to have to show me not just the answer, but all of your work. So for instance, on your homework check, I'm going to say from the worksheet, show me number 11 and show me number 31. Something that I'm just picking them. So you'll have to take a picture or write it out on a different piece of paper. Write those in there, showing me all of your work and that you guys get this, okay? So here's all of it. It seems like a lot. 1 through 5, very simple. Number 11 through 15, that's what we just did today. Number 17 through 33, I think it was. That's the factoring. The first 3, A is 1. The next 5, A is not 1. 39 through 45 is difference of squares. Then the last 3 is more just factoring, and this says for each perfect square trinomial. Most of this should not be too difficult. If you have questions, be sure, we've got about 10 minutes left. Go ahead and get started, and you might want to start with some of the harder ones for right now. If you have any questions, let me know.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
so when you say for the homework check, if we're doing it live, how are you going to check it? Like, do we send it to you, or do we just like put it up in front of our screen?
You're going to send it to me. So you're going to take a picture of it, either with your phone and email it to me.
Oh, okay.
So you guys will not like the online textbook. I don't like it, and it's even less user-friendly on your side, and there's more errors. So at least this way, I can see exactly where you're making the mistake. I can check your answer. I can help you guys. I can go back and look at it. The bad news is, for right now, all of your homework is all of your grade until we're back in person. So we're going to find some creative ways to make sure, A, you have some easy points, and we're also going to make sure that I know that you guys know what we're doing, okay? So make sure you're asking questions. Remember, I know a lot of you guys have already taken the SAT or ACT, but a lot of this stuff is a big part of that. So make sure you guys are staying on it. Also, you wouldn't be taking this class if you didn't need it to get into college, and or you're going to take calculus next year. So make sure that you're learning this. All right. Now I'll stay on here. So it's 1 through 55, odds only. Omit number 7, 9, and I think it was 35 and 37. Any questions at all? Yeah, go ahead.
I take my notes digitally. I still write them, but I write them digitally. Should I write them out on a sheet of paper before I turn them in, or should I just screenshot it?
When it comes to your homework, I don't care how you do your homework. You keep them organized for you on the check, but just make sure that you can flip back to it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I would type in like, so I would just head it as like worksheet 1 through 55 odds. And then you can do your answers however you organize them for you.
Okay.
What it'll look like on Friday is I will literally say, like, I want to see number 11. I want to see number 17, whatever,
Right.
like whatever 4 or 5 problems I pick. And it's only going to be 4 or 5 problems, so I don't want it to take all period.
Okay. Yeah, I just write them out like I would on paper, but it's on my iPad so that I don't, waste paper.
Gotcha.
I do that too. I use Google Keep, where you can use from your Chromebook your little pen.
Yep.
And you literally just write it, but you can turn it into an image and you can send it to people. So
Perfect. So then when it comes down to that, as long as you have a way, and you guys might be better off because you could probably just copy and paste and put that on one page and then send it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. For instance, I have a lot of students that use like Schoology, and it's really cool. So we'll do all their stuff on their iPad, and then they'll just put it and shrink it together, put it on one image, and then submit it. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to hit stop share. If you guys want to, and I'm going to stop recording.